is Yehuda Tassa, and that's the original name. I was born in Jerusalem in 1936 to parents that immigrated from Yemen in 1920.
Okay.
What?
You should look at me. I'm sorry. I
in 1929. Initially, they lived in Tel Aviv. After a couple of years, they moved to Jerusalem because for them, Jerusalem was the holy city, and that's what my father went to Jerusalem, built a synagogue, and he was a cantor, Hassan, whatever they call it, and he make a living by continuing in his profession, which was filigree jewelry that he did in Yemen. He had a store there, and primarily he worked for Arab women, did lots of jewelry for them, as well as Jewish people. And we were 6 in the family, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. And that's, I guess, the introduction of myself.
Okay. So can you tell me about your father, where he was born, where your mother was born, how they met each other, if you know that story?
Yeah, my father born in, I actually don't know exactly the city that he lived, that's what he born. But he became orphan very early in the age. Both of his parents died. And I think at the age of 12, he went to Taiz. Taiz is the city south of Sana'a, the city, very close by. And after that, he moved to Abe. Abe is another city. He met my mother and they got married. And then he used to have, he owned a store that he did jewelry with his brother. And that's about the story of his.
How did he learn the filigree if he was an orphan?
No, he, you know, in Yemen you learn at very early age.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
What's that?
Can you talk about the filigree in Yemen?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. But he learned it from his father and then his uncle, that they worked together. And after that, he was like a student in other places until he managed to get, a store for himself and work.
Tell me about your mother and where she was born. And
yeah, my mother was born in Yemen in Abe. Her parent, my father, by the way, he helped her parent to move to Israel. He paid the trip and everything. And then they lived with us until both of them died, but they lived. Now, my grandfather, he was a jeweler as well. He helped my father in his work. And he died pretty late. It was amazing, because many Yemenites died very early.
How did your parents meet each other? Do you know?
I think it's a matter of, in Yemen, you have a matchmaker. That's, they don't go to party and meet.
How did they move to Israel? What made them leave Yemen?
It was a long trip because it was initiated by themselves. He wanted to be in Israel for a long time until he decided definitely. So he moved with my mother, and my older brother, he was like 1 year old. And I remember she was pregnant with the second brother. And so they walked for a few days until they got to Aden, and then from there they took the boat and moved to Israel.
When they left, did they leave everything
Yeah,
behind?
you leave everything. Yeah. Not only that, you don't tell even the Muslim neighbor that you want to leave, because something could endanger them.
Did
So
they
they
take
left everything.
all of the silver work they left?
Yeah, he took some, the most precious in gold, but as far as I know, it was sudden move.
Do you know what the triggers were that made them leave when they left, aside from your father wanting to go to Israel? Was there something that happened in the community where they said
No,
it's time?
in Yemen it's a very cyclic. You can have a period with very good president, that he was good to the Jewish people, and will be another one that will be very bad for him, and he come with lots of prohibition and all that. And in Yemen, the Jewish people have very restricted, rules, and they have to pay for, like the protection taxes. Yeah, and they did it, with all the humiliation that they did to the Jewish. By the way, the Christian used to be there until the 11th century. After that, they didn't want to obey all the prohibition, and they left Yemen.
So I heard that in Yemen, the orphans were forced to convert to Islam. That didn't happen.
If a family that the parent died and they have children, by the Muslim law, they have to be converted to Islam. So if the government knows about it, immediately they come. You don't have any family member a choice. Now, if many times it happened that 12 years or 13 years old girl will get married to an old guy, and the reason they did it to save her from being converted to Islam.
Yeah. And your father wasn't converted?
No. My grandfather, for a while, he was converted to Islam, Muslim. And after a few years, he converted back.
How did that, do you know the story?
I really don't know exactly the reason. I think it was more economic issue that he converted, and then after that, he converted back.
Wow, I never heard a story like that before.
Oh, it happened quite many cases.
Wow.
And in Israel, that obviously he was, by definition, a Jewish.
Yeah. So, but when he went to Israel, by the time your grandfather went to Israel, he was converted back to Judaism?
No, he was already Jewish.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, if you, this question was, they asked Rambam at that time, what to do if we have to be by force to be converted. And he really answered them a very good answer, that as long as you are in your heart Jewish, that's okay, don't feel, bad about it. And he kind of allowed them, that it's not something very bad, because it's otherwise it endanger,
Yeah.
תספר לי על הדודה שלך עם הבן שלה.
אני לא שומע.
תראה לי מבט כמו aunt. How did the brother converted and he become
Oh, okay, yeah, there is in my family, there was my aunt, she has a brother, or two brothers, but, and they got all, both parents died, and the Muslim took her brother, converted him to Islam. Now, it was a big story in Israel. They somehow, I don't know how it was sneaked to the newspaper, but anyhow, he was really lived with a very high level Muslim in judiciary profession, one of the highest level. And the boy was very bright, and he really became like his son. And later on, there was an article that he was the Supreme Judge in Yemen. And after that, and they show it in Ha'olam Hazeh, in Israel, the picture of his sister and him, very, very similar. And at one point, they nominated him to be a president. Now, the story is that they did not want to be advertised, his sister, and she didn't want to talk about it. For her, he doesn't exist because he converted. It's not his fault. Now, her son was in the Second World War, and he used to get letters from him when he was a Supreme Judge, and he would send him packages to the army, in World War II. So that is the story that's running in the family.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big story.
Yeah, there is a big article, If you want, I can refer you to that.
Yeah. So I heard also in Yemen, all of the different families had different styles of silver work.
Yeah, the jewelry in Sana'a, the capital city, is slightly different.
So did your
It's
family
very
have a specific?
what?
Did your family have a specific style?
I think it was more close to Sana'a style, yeah, because he had connection with lots of jewelry in Sana'a. And it is known there that, let's say, special necklace or some other ornament is one family know how to do it. And it was known that it is a style of so-and-so. And but if you move to the out of Sana'a, the style is more, how do I express it? It's not finesse like the Sana'a, but it's still very innovative, like the Haban family that come from Haban. Their jewelry is very coarse, it's not the same as Sana'a.
So, in Yemen, did your parents speak Arabic?
Oh yeah, we speak Arabic even in Israel.
Did they?
Yemenite Arabic, yeah.
Can you
The
speak
Arabic has lots of style.
Can you speak Yemenite Arabic?
Of course.
Can you speak?
With my mother,
Can you say something?
no, I don't want to.
No? Okay.
But with my mother, she never spoke Hebrew. We had to speak with her Yemenite.
But you learned Hebrew.
Oh yeah.
Or they learned Hebrew.
In school, they did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But
So
with my father and mother, it's only Yemenite. Yeah.
can you don't want to speak just a little
No,
bit?
I don't want.
Okay. So do you know when your parents went to Israel, what life was like for them when they first arrived with your brother? Did they live in Mabarot? Did they live in?
No, that they. I don't remember what initially where they lived. I know they lived in the. My father bought property there in Kerem Temanim, and he lived there. After a few years, he went to Jerusalem and bought their house and built it.
Does your family still have the property in the Kerem?
We have in the Kerem still, it's empty lot.
Which street is it? Do you know?
Kihilat Eden. It's really in very good place.
Yeah.
But now it's only, because it's an old house, they have to wipe it off,
So when they were in Israel, did they live within tight? Can you talk about the Kerem a little bit? How it was back then?
I don't, I was never lived there. I mean, I was born in Jerusalem when he already moved to Jerusalem.
But not even the Kerem, just the Yemenite quarters in Israel.
Yeah, it was a Kerem Temanim. It was a special quarter for the Yemenite, one of them. Rosh Ain was another one. And in the neighborhood that we used to live, it was the Yemenite neighborhood. After many years, they diffused to all kinds of the Rehovot, Sha'araim, Marmorek was very concentrated with Yemenite immigrants.
So when you went to school, were you going to school? What kind of school did you go to?
I did school in Jerusalem, but it was only elementary school. I had to work and I couldn't continue, high school or whatever. I went 1 year only evening high school, but I left after that. מה?
שלקחו אותך לרחביה.
Oh, okay, that's not important.
It is.
What is it? What?
No, in the school that I was in elementary school, I think second grade, something like that, third grade, one of the עובדת סוציאלית, if you know what it is.
Social.
She, and the teacher, she was a teacher also. And she saw, I don't know what I impressed her. She thought I was a talented boy and should study in Rehavia. And it was private school, by the way. And I don't know who paid, but probably some of the government paid the money for that private school. And there was all the wealthy people of Jerusalem. And I had to be there.
Were there other Mizrahi Jews, or was it mostly Ashkenazi?
Mostly Ashkenazi. I would say 95%. Yeah.
Did
Rehavia is
yeah.
one of the elite neighborhoods.
Did your parents experience a lot of discrimination?
I don't know. I don't think because, discrimination there was in Israel against the Yemenite and against many others that later on came. The Ethiopian, even today, we hear it. Personally, I don't think my father and my mother met with clashes like that, because they were not, they would work at home and no much contact. But there was definitely.
Did you experience discrimination?
What's that?
Did you experience discrimination?
I don't know if it's something that I can identify, but I don't know. I didn't meet that, but definitely it was. It was not that. It's not something that you can say there was no discrimination.
Yeah. So what are some of the memories of foods that your mother used to make and you used to eat? Did you eat the Yemenite foods in Israel?
Yemenite food is very restricted. They don't have a variety of things, but mostly it's soup, chicken soup, and Saturday they make the jahrun and the malawah and all kinds of that. But really we did not have any other luxury,
What about religious observance? Did you go to Beit Knesset with your family?
Every Saturday I have to. My father was a Chazan, and during the week I would sit opposite him, and he, Yemenite can read backward. So he can, I look at the book and he can see exactly if I make a mistake. So I was trained by him for every Saturday to do Aliyah Shishi. Every Saturday I have to do it. Later on, the Yemenite, in the Yemenite synagogue, the authentic one, you read one sentence in the Torah, and then a boy usually read the translation of Aramaic of that sentence. One, all the time. Yeah.
So do you know Aramaic?
Yeah, that's I was reading the Aramaic, knowing what the pasuk in Hebrew.
Yeah.
That's why I connected. In Aramaic, by the way, it's very similar to Kurdish. It's exactly that. It's Aramaic.
So were there other special observances or practices that were unique to your Yemenite community in Israel? Like, was there anything that you did that was a little bit different aside from the Aramaic?
No, we lived in basically cosmopolitan of different immigrants from Syria, Haleb, from Persia, Iran. Really, our neighborhood was lots of immigrants from different countries. Everyone has his own synagogue. And once in a while, we used to go to other synagogue, you know.
Did your parents ever talk about going back to Yemen? Did they ever?
Never. No, for them, being in Jerusalem, that's the ultimate, you know.
Yeah. So.
They dream about it for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Eventually, he found that it was, you know, he was lucky to.
So, most of the people who I interview are from they're from Yemen or they're from an Arab country, so it's different. It's a little different interviewing people who are born in Israel. There's not as much, I can't get as much information. But, so I think that the last thing that's really unique is for you to talk about your filigree and how you decided to go back to it and all of that story. I know you've told it a bunch of times, but...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, as a boy, I had to work, you know, especially when, you know, initially I was trained by my father, but he died when he was like 43. I was about 8, 9 years old. So my older brother was about 13 years old, and he worked with my father quite a number of years. So I used to help him in learning the jewelry, and we have to make a living. We have 6 in the family, all of them under 9 years old. And so that's why I used to, you know, work day in, day out. And so that's why school was not an issue. I could not pay attention too much to the school. And so I worked there, and then outside as well, you know, different store, jewelry store, and other job that I have to make money so this family can go on. And I think after that I went to the army, and coming back from the army, I back again to the jewelry and developed a few other techniques. And at one point I decided that I have to decide to have different profession because it was very hard to make a decent living with the jewelry. And I had to learn by myself for matriculation. In Israel you have to have that in order to go to university. So I did that, working all day, coming back at home, study until 3 in the morning, and then the next day, the same thing. Then I applied I wanted to study aeronautics. That attracted me, and I said, for that I'm willing to do the matriculation, you know, whatever. I did not have money. I work in construction building and all that to save some money for the school. And at one point I applied for Hebrew University in the math physics department, and then applied also for the Technion. Now the Technion you have to do a test first in physics and math, and the Hebrew University, they will go by your grade. So I got accepted to the math physics, but the Technion delayed it. Later on I had accepted them, and obviously I decided to go to the Technion. And after that, you know, it's all study and work on the weekend in the Namal Haifa as a sabal to make a living for the next week to eat. The second year was easier since I got a job in the lab, and from there on it was easy. After that I went, after graduation I went to accepted a job with Israel Aircraft Industry, and I was really among the first to do the first airplane that Israeli designed. That was Arava. And after that I continued with, at that time it was classified to do the Kfir, which is a fighter jet. At the end of 71, we didn't have any really major project. We did like more research and all that. And I was offered to do my PhD by a professor from United States. It was on a sabbatical year, to do my PhD with him under NASA grant. I accepted that, and from 72 I came to Cleveland, the horrible weather, and after 4 years I finished my PhD and worked for a while with NASA Lewis, and then got accepted a job by Lockheed at that time. We moved to Atlanta, and after 8 years they disassembled the research there, and I moved to California, Palo Alto. In 98, after working there like 26 years, I decided to retire. They gave us a package, and there was really the research in my area dwindled down, and I decided maybe that's a good time to do that. So at retirement I took lots of community college courses in arts and all that I was interested in. And one of them was really doing lapidary, which is polishing stone. I wanted to learn it all my life. I did not know how they do it. So while I was doing that, my instructor, he looked at my work and he said, with exclamation, boy, who did that, I thought he referred to the stone. I said, what are you joking? You taught me that. He said, no, the filigree that you did. I said, yeah, I did it. And then immediately he came with his boss and they said, oh, it's a lost art and you have to teach us and all that. So I said, okay, prepare a class, I'll be happy. And then it rang a bell to me. I talked to my brother in Israel that he also left the jewelry for many years. And he said, yeah, even in Israel, there are not many jewelers left that can do that. So my intention is to revive this profession, this art, and I continue to give classes, workshop, and do myself in show. And I investigate many different material now. That's about it, I think.
So is there any other stories about your Yemenite heritage? Anything about your family? Anything that sticks out in your memory?
No, I think I told you about that. One of my family was the president in Yemen.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I had
so what happened to him?
Oh, he probably died, at that time.
You think there's a lot of people like that in Yemen? A lot of converted.
There are many converted, yeah. There are many converted.
Are they aware of it? Do they know their history, do you think?
I really don't know.
If you could go visit Yemen, would you go visit?
Oh, definitely, I'd like to. When it will be safe. Not now.
Yeah.
But, no, I'd like to visit, all the cities and places that my father and mother talked about. They have lots of stories, about Yemen. And You know, there were times that they lived very nicely with the Arab, but even with all the prohibitions that they gave on them, you know, like in Sana'a, they did not allow them to build houses higher than a Muslim neighbor. So what they did, they built it down under the ground. You know?
I think that's it.
And they kept, you know, lots of custom. They kept it, which they think it's really go back to King Solomon time.
Like what?
Many, you know, custom that really other Jewish community in the world don't have it. I don't remember the detail, but it's really, you know, how to reading the Torah, that one pasuk and pasuk the child. That is not, you don't see it in any Ashkenazi. And the Jewish community were really isolated from the Jewry in the world. It's only, I think, very late in the 18th century, they started to write letters to Jewish community in London and many other well-known to get contact. But they were isolated for centuries.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's about it, yeah.
Okay. You could just tell me, hold it, you can hold it close up and tell me what it is.
Yeah, that's both a pendant and a pin. You know, usually they do that. And it's a very tricky and very different filigree element. You can see three levels of flower, one on top of the other. Okay? And I imitate that, slightly different, but I saw how much it is tricky to keep that, because the outer one is an open legs, and it have to be really tangent to the rim, that you have a circle here.
Who made that?
What?
Who made that?
My father.
Did he make, do you know if he made it in Israel or in Yemen?
I think in Israel he did that, yeah. And that's, I think, your mother, or...
Yeah. Showed the bicycle of my mom from...
What's that? Yeah.
My bicycle.
Oh, okay. And that is, you know, for the advanced student, I give them to do advanced project, and they do it as a circle, not rectangular. But the different levels of that, they do very similar to that.
Beautiful.
And it comes very nice, yeah. And that's also another of my father, you know. That's a pin and a pendant as well.
Can you hold it just like that for 1 second? It's
What?
beautiful. Just stay still for 1 second. Okay.
Okay, so that's also, if you look at the detail, it's a lot of different filigree and different things, you know, that you can... so that I give, if I, you know, for student, advanced student, you know, they see how hard it is to do that. Yeah. Your mother?
I think I found them.
Yeah, I think I saw it somebody.
I think more than 100 years.
Wow.
And this is a
Wow.
bracelet that is also made granulation with tiny element. It's a very complicated, really, you know, element here. And the special thing here, there are missing stone here in all that. And the key here is an Indian, I would say, a key that is really screwed. That Yemen adopted that closure, you know. What is it? Oh, here it is. That's, no, that should be here. Yeah. And if you clockwise, it open up. Okay, here. Okay, you see the close up, it open up. It's like a screw, okay? And when you finish that, it open up.
Oh.
It's a very primitive but very interesting. Backward.
It's amazing.
I never wear it.
It's so small.
Oh, by the way, I have a couple of students that did that
Really?
similar to that. Yeah. I have, I think, something that. No, that's not here.
Your methods when you make the jewelry are the same methods that your grandfather and your great-grandfather used?
Approximately, yes, but there are, we have now different tools, so it is easier. But, yeah. But because you have different technique, different tool, then you develop different technique that make it much easier. For instance, on that side you'll see the candle holder Shabbat. That this we call it by. There are 4 components that done by spinning the silver, and then you they solder all the 4 components, and you make the big one that you have over there. Yeah. So that's a special art that in Yemen they didn't have that. That kind of thing. And granulation is also very special art that only few Yemenites knew, to develop the special liquid that really attach and then can fuse those small granules. And that's only father to son. You cannot read it, you cannot, they will not tell you that.
Have you ever thought about writing all this stuff down?
You bet, I do. I have 2 DVD. But I have, at the end I'll put a book with 12 projects. As a matter of fact, I have many sections of the book already written, because I give workshop, I hand out